G'day podcast listeners, I am back with another episode of the Boogie podcast. This time with Matthew Lackey. I know a few of you out there have been harassing me to no end. When am I going to publish the Lackey podcast? When am I going to publish the Lackey podcast? Well, here is the Lackey podcast coming to you. It took a little while. Recorded back in winter. Must have been about July on the Gold Coast on a cracking afternoon. Sat down with the man himself, absolute legend of the sport. Really took the Australian drop knee scene on its own journey, and he really has a lasting legacy for the jack stance fiends amongst you. Huge thanks to Lackey for sitting down, and a huge thanks to you, the listeners, for being so goddamn patient. Here you go. Yeah, this looks really nice. This looks real nice. Let's see if we can get the right little...
So is this actually videoed?
Yeah, I do it video, and then
shit.
That's alright, with your Canadian club. I think the audio's
how's my fucking wrinkles showing up?
You're alright. We all have to get old at one point.
I'm going for the weathered look.
So am I.
I think I'm pulling it off.
At least you're not forced to go for the bald look.
I can't get rid of this shit.
I don't know. I'd take a donation of 50. I reckon you could donate 50% of the hair on your head and you'd still have a full head of hair.
I would. The fucking hair on my back. Alright, so...
Well, we're rolling now. We're in.
Okay, right, no.
Why? What do you mean?
And now I'm nervous. No, I'm not.
Don't get nervous.
No. Alright, so...
Action.
What do we
Well,
far away?
Yeah, it's a podcast. We're sitting here at which beach is this? Rainbow Bay.
This is Rainbow Bay. It's a beautiful Tuesday afternoon.
It is a really beautiful.
It is an absolute cracker, actually. So, winter bliss.
It is. That tower, no one can see it, but it's just there in the distance. Is that your usual spot?
So that's Tower 1, and we get moved around, but majority of the time, through the holidays and all that kind of jazz, I'll be there at Tower 1.
Tower 1.
So, yeah.
Is that like lifeguarding's a thing up here in Queensland way more than I know it as happening in New South Wales? I know they get it down at Bondi Way and the Sydney beaches and stuff, but there aren't that many paid, at least in my experience, I don't seem to see that many paid lifeguards up in that stretch between like Byron and Sydney. It seems to be a pretty light on job. It's a big thing up here though. Nearly every beach has a tower with a paid lifeguard in it,
that's right. Yeah, it's a full professional lifeguard service up here. Yeah. And we're all year round. So
it's full on,
it doesn't stop,
Yeah. Is it like sitting there at that tower, I've had a chance, like this is the first time in my life I've actually surfed out here this year. And I mean, do you ever have to do any gnarly rescues? Is there any, or is it just...
it's a bit different.
What's the vibe?
Down here, you're just getting a lot of fin cuts and rock cuts and stuff, whereas up towards surface, that's when the rips are actually pulling people out. So it's a totally different... It's kind of one extreme to the other, but yeah, down here, you're dealing with cuts and...
High performance injuries.
Yeah, kind of thing. You're not really... there's a sweep here, there's not a rip. Yeah. Up towards surface, there's
rips that really
and there's people that can't swim and it's tourists and it's just you're on the edge of your seat the whole time.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Right.
But down here it's a bit of a different vibe.
Yeah.
But you do get a lot of fin cuts, rock cuts, and the odd heart attack just thrown in the mix.
Just a heart attack thrown in.
Yeah, just a mild heart attack. Yeah, it all happens.
Have you had to ever really perform any life-saving? Have you been in a situation for real life-saving? And
yeah, for sure.
Yeah, is it gnarly? How do you process it?
It's a bit weird. It's really strange. Like, because I don't know the person, you're kind of just doing your thing. So you're giving them every chance that they've got and some. You get the defib on them, that kicks them. Yeah. And and sometimes they come back, sometimes they don't. But it doesn't. It's really strange. It doesn't affect me. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's weird.
Okay. So you've lost people. You've applied first aid and lost people.
Yeah, definitely had a bloke here at Snapper. He had must have had a heart attack in the water.
Yeah, right.
And pulled him out, and we got him back, but he went to hospital later, and he was just on life support. And the family,
okay.
He was an older bloke, so the family kind of determined that he was he'd had a good run, and but to be honest, he looked quite peaceful.
Yeah,
he died doing what he loved.
Yeah.
So it doesn't really affect me. Yeah.
Okay, cool. I mean, it must be full. I just did first aid. I did a first aid course the other day, and it's putting you through the motions of like putting the defib on, like apply CPR, and it's like it is this kind of regimented thing, right? Once you're in that moment, you just do your job.
Yeah, that's right. It's kind of strange. It's you do all the training and all that jazz, but until you're actually doing it, it's a bit of a different kettle of fish. But I try to take away from what the ambos do, and you see when they rock up with a really relaxed approach. They never run. They never create panic. So you just rock up. You just relax, a couple of deep breaths, and you just get into it, and that's it. And then, some things that kind of shit you sometimes is the public. Yeah. Like this one we had here at Rainbow. You're sitting there, everyone's doing compressions and all this jazz, and then you look over your shoulder and someone's got their phone out filming this shit.
Get lost.
It's just not the time and place.
Someone's dying on the ground.
Yeah,
mate.
I know. So that's pretty. It's pretty wild, but that's just humans, isn't it?
Yeah. That's funny. It reminds me of like a Seinfeld episode. I think it was the last ever Seinfeld episode, and they went to jail for filming someone being robbed in the streets, and they were laughing and filming at the same time.
Yeah.
And it's like that was like in the late 90s that episode came out, and now that's like a real thing where it's like people do just film drama.
Yeah, that's
right. And
right.
it's like a thing.
Yeah, especially when someone's like, it's a bit, filming a bit of drama is pretty funny, but when something like that's going on, it's a bit different.
Someone's dying.
Yeah. Wrap it up.
Yeah, just cut it right there. Yeah. You've been doing it a long time though, hey? How long have you been a lifeguard for now?
So I think it's coming up 12 years.
12 years.
Yeah, so...
Shit.
Yeah, so obviously the bodyboarding was... I knew that it wasn't going to last forever. And so I thought, what's the next best thing? And so I kind of got my foot in the door, started doing it, and it's a really good job because at that stage you could do a few shifts here and there, you could travel, you could still. It was really lenient, so it was no drama, and it really suited still being able to bodyboard and travel and do all that jazz, and then still have this coming in, and then slowly but surely I just kind of pulled focus on lifeguarding, and here we are. Yeah.
Oh, so you've when do you think you've kind of consciously really? When you say pull focus, you've really put more, you're getting more shifts, like you're a full-time lifeguard.
Well, yeah, so...
when did that kind of happen?
Maybe probably like 5 years ago. So I'm still a casual lifeguard, but up here you get a seasonal roster. So they give you the roster, and then you're locked in because lifeguarding up here, it's such a, no one leaves. The permanent blokes don't leave. Yeah. So a permanent position is rare as hen's teeth.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, but the seasonal roster is the next best thing, and yeah.
Okay, so you're just locked in for the season, and it's like a summer, winter thing.
Yeah, it's all year, but it's really good. It's in winter you go onto this roster called 1 month on, 1 month off. So you get the chance on your month off to go travel, to do whatever you want.
Oh.
So but if you want to hang around and work, there's work for you.
Oh,
right. And then when your month's on, you're locked into your shifts, So it's really good.
So when it comes to kind of, because, you're still sponsored, and I wanted to, of course we're going to start talking about bodyboarding, not just lifeguarding the whole time. Yeah. But it's something that, with the type of sponsorship that I guess you have, it's a free surfing sponsorship. There's no competitions really. I don't even know whether you ever paid much attention to competitions, but you can just book in a trip somewhere and have it in that month.
No,
you can say, I'm going to the Philippines for this month, and it works.
Exactly. That's the benefit of it. And
good.
And plus, they're a really good bunch of guys. They're super relaxed. If I really want it, hey guys, I've got to go away, I've got to do this. It's no drama. So it's really good. That's
really cool. I mean, coming back to let's talk about bodyboarding finally. I was out here the other day, and I think a lot of people would notice, but you've been you prone a bit around these parts, don't you? There's a bit of prone.
I only prone when it's like flat bottom, below sea level, a little marley and snapper, and it's rare as hen's teeth. Yeah. So when it does, I just love getting barreled.
Yeah.
I don't even think about dropping when it's like that, just because I don't know what it is, but I just love getting barreled.
But it's a great barrel. Like, it's incredible.
Yeah, it's like a 20-second knuckle grinding pit below sea level. It's just so fun. And you just find your oldest, most flexiest thing and just get on it and just get barreled. And that's what I just love it.
I was talking to Mitch today. I did a podcast with him earlier. It come out around the same time as this one. Just talking about the culture or the vibe out at Snapper Rocks in particular. Like, a lot of people see, you can see those classic images of this place where there's literally 500 plus bodies from, Kira to here. How do you find your place out there? Like, how do you process that crowd and get what you want out of it? Because I noticed that, like, Mitch is sitting at the top of the pack. You get out there, you're at the top of the pack. There isn't like this. You're not sniffing around in the middle. You're actually out there with the big guns. Yeah. How does that all work for you? Like, how did you find your way to that position, and how do you kind of deal with the crowd out here?
So, first and foremost, you need the banks to be heavy enough to warrant bodyboarding out there.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if the sand's right and it's going thick and heavy, you kind of find your place. And then when it comes to like me and Mitch or whatever, we've grown up here. We know everyone. We know the surfers.
Yeah.
We don't hassle. We're not a bunch of wankers out there. Yeah. So we keep a low profile. We keep our head down. The moment a lot of bodyboarders start coming out there, it's a bit like, oh fuck, they're starting to notice us.
Just like, hi.
Yeah. And so we try to run it.
Starting to notice.
Yeah. So we try to run a pretty tight ship out the front, and we get away with it. We just get away with it. And,
by the skin of your teeth.
But yeah, by the skin of our teeth. But it's good because when the bank's right and it's really heavy, then they're more than happy to just go, hey, go. As soon as you get down the line, that's when it's a shit fight and it's just fend for yourself.
Fully.
There's no such thing as, like, I live here at Rainbow, but there's it doesn't matter. It's just a shit fight.
It is, eh? And what I found was, like, at the point where you take off behind the rock, like, there is this, like, there's an order out there and there's this kind of a great vibe out there. But as soon as you get in that barrel behind the rock and then you're coming into that zone where there's all the punters who are just out there and, like, these nameless faces, that's when the burning happens. It doesn't happen on the takeoff so much. Like, it's like, Mick Fanning will look at you and go, yeah, go Lackey. Or, there's this respect and there's, like, people having a yarn out there and all the other locals, I don't even know their names, but everybody's having a good old yarn and taking turns almost.
Yeah, no, that's how it is. Everyone knows.
It's a great vibe on the takeoff.
It is. It's because that's exactly it. You don't have to deal with the bullshit that's that's down the line.
But down the line, it's coming.
Yeah, it's coming, but it's coming, and you just take it with a grain of salt, Because the thing that I found was, back in the day, someone would burn you and you'd be kind of pissed off thinking they're burning me because I'm a bodyboarder. But no, they're just burning you because it doesn't matter who it was.
No.
They just want to burn you.
Oh, no. Yeah, nobody's safe.
Yeah, like when I ride a surfboard out here, you just get burnt.
I found it even harder on a surfboard myself out here. I got better waves on a bodyboard out there than I did on the surfboard, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, it's a crazy, crazy wave. I mean, was it, for you, did you grow up here?
Yeah, so
Is this home?
Yeah. So I spent a lot of time down in Fingal.
Yeah.
So I used to spend a lot of time in Fingal. I pretty much grew up there, and always wanted to surf D-bar.
Yeah, sure.
And so was always coming across the D-bar, and then I kind of finally made the move into basically Coolangatta, And then I was just kind of like here, Tugun, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And then just bought a place here and that's it. Go to the grave.
Yeah, exactly. Well, it's not a bad spot to go to the grave.
Yeah.
Maybe you can have a heart attack out there one day. And,
shit.
And the lifeguards can do their best and just drift off. When it came to your decision to... Oh, well, was it a decision to drop knee? Or was it just what was right from the very beginning for you, like when it came to your early days of bodyboarding?
I started off prone like everyone, and then but back in the day it was a lot different. Like drop knee was looked at totally differently. It was like cool, you had
heaps cooler than prone.
Oh yeah, but everyone used to do both.
Yes.
And then you had guys like you had Roach, and he was obviously he was on Momentum.
Yeah.
That surf video, Taylor Steele's Momentum, and that was huge. So that was like, I was like, holy shit, he's getting respect from surfers. It's like the whole 9 yards. Yeah. So that was but also a big influence for me was a guy called Dorian Mills. So I grew up, I grew up in Fingal. This guy called Dorian Mills. He was a goofy footer, and he actually was riding for Moray and Rip Curl at the time.
Wow.
Yeah.
Legit.
He was like, he blew his knee out, but he was really good, and he was like the idol around town. Oh. And even I kind of grew up with surfers when I was younger at Fingal. All my mates were surfers, and so anyway, that's kind of how I started drop knee, and I think I started on a BZ T10.
Yeah, right.
And I started on that, and I just started doing it, and then I was like, I kind of just started from there. And then I actually remember Mez was doing custom boards, and one of my mates, Simon Ormerod, he got a Mez, and you could choose. It was the first time you could...
The nose...
you could fill it. It was in Riptide. You get the page out of Riptide and fill it in and just hope for the best.
I remember that very well.
So that's what I did. And anyway, I had to commit. I was like, am I going to go a full-on drop knee board? And I went, that's it, I'm doing it. And I did. And I just got this full-on round nose thing.
That's hilarious.
And it was old school Dow, and it was amazing. And that's probably where it really was really
this
set
was a
in
commitment
stone.
right now.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's funny. How old were you when you bought that Mez, do you reckon?
Oh, shit. I'm so bad with that stuff.
But you must have been like 14.
Yeah, probably.
Ish.
Probably
right?
around 14.
Because when were you sponsored? Your first sponsors kind of came along late teens, didn't they?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So it would have been around then.
So you've made the call. You've gone like, and this was pretty revolutionary. Like it was actually revolutionary at the time for bodyboarding, because before those Mez cards in the Riptide, you couldn't order a there wasn't really a thing called custom boards for the mainstream, was there?
No. There was those Manta Lethal Customs, but I mean, the Mantas were just like, they were like a piece of wood. They were horrendous. Yeah. Like, that's just my opinion.
Yeah, that's fair. It's a podcast.
But Mez, heavy-handed opinions. But Mez was making the good stuff with the best material. It was just hands down. And I remember, so that was it.
That's so funny.
Yeah,
that's funny. So you get this custom drop knee board. You were riding. You said you started off on a BZ T10, which, going off the latest auctioning it's probably worth a lot of money. That T10.
I got no idea where that thing went. I'd love to find
love to hold that one.
Yeah.
But so you've gone from this kind of like BZ board. Was Ben Severson an influence at that time? Like you were looking at his approach and all that kind of shit?
Ben Severson to me was like, everyone loves Stewart, and obviously you love Stewart, but to me, Ben Severson was like, I just used to chase high tide shore breaks and just try and do like Sevo stalls. That's what I was chasing when I was, I was just a prone grub, just looking for thick shore breaks. And we never had shore breaks around here. We never had froggies back then because the sand wasn't there.
Yeah.
And so, you just wait for your high tide and find a slabbing shore break, and you pretend you're Kai Santos or Ben Severson.
You're showing your age so much in this podcast.
Yeah, I love it. And so that's who you wanted to be. That's who I wanted to be when I was growing up. I just loved that they were chasing slabs.
So Ben Severson, like legit, that is actually legit idol as a kid. That's who you were looking at. You're like, that's actually my guy.
Yeah, that's when I was real young. It was like Ben Severson and those guys. But then and then obviously Roach came into the picture, and he was just fucking.
Because there was a long time where you, in the early days when you were kind of rising up, and I was there, so I remember this, there was a lot of comparisons between you and Roach with the style, and, there were these comparisons.
Yeah, to me, that's ridiculous.
Sure, that's a nice thing for you to say.
No, but it's like, that's just me being, I'm a bit of a straight shooter, and I like to really, what I really think.
Yep.
Mate, Roach is on such a fucking different level than anybody. Okay. It doesn't matter. Like, Dave Hub, yeah, he's good. Kainoa, big waves, a different kind of element.
Yeah.
The closest I could say would be Akka.
Yeah.
Akka and Roach, but to me, Roach was a complete package. He was like, and for people to like compare me to him, it just wasn't realistic. Like, yeah, okay, that's a compliment or whatever, and maybe as I grew older, I found my own kind of thing.
Yeah.
But to me, and it's true. It's really true. Like, fucking Roach is like in a total league of his own.
Yeah, I mean, he's really fast too. I think, like, when you see him, he's got a twitchiness about his drop knee, which just had so much power that nobody else was doing at the time either.
Yeah, he's just a freak. Like, he's the real deal, you know?
Yeah.
So, yeah, and like, I used to always see that, like, and I'd kind of cringe when people did that, because I'm like, fuck. But it's true. There's no comparison. He's just that much fucking... He's like one of those freaks, like a Slater or Michael Jordan or whatever.
Yeah.
He really is, like a Stewart.
Yeah.
He's just so much fucking better than the rest.
Yeah.
And that's not even me just being nice. That's fucking real.
Yeah, it's real. It's fully real. Like, I mean, how do you think... Because this kind of comes into, like, a lot of the people maybe listening to this, like... Some people listening to this probably may not even have watched much Paul Roach. You know, the generations change over time, and there's not that much of him coming out that's fresh.
Yep.
I mean, it's pretty obvious that the sport of bodyboarding's changed dramatically throughout your career, right? You know, you came in when there was magazines that you could get covers of, sponsors that would give you money if you got a photo in one of them, which is just the wildest thing to ever think was real.
Yeah.
You know, where's drop knee at for you? What's your take on the situation of drop knee as a kind of approach to bodyboarding? Like,
there's a fine
how
line.
does it stay relevant, or is it still relevant, you know, in the scene?
It's definitely still relevant, because I think, you know, everyone, I think Roach raised that bar so high, it's like, you know, people are... Yeah, it's I kind of switched off to a lot of, you know, fucking DK's dead or whatever. I was always just running my own show kind of thing, so I never really bought into that kind of side of it. But yeah, fuck, I'm losing track of my mind here.
That's all right. Like, I mean, you didn't buy into this whole DK's dead because you just kept on running your own race. But I mean, there's a lot of people out there looking at, like, a lot of them blame the competition scene, you know, like that there was this focus on prone and it just, like, killed drop knee.
Yeah, no. Man, to me, drop knee and contests are fucking just do not mix. They just, because you're forcing in a contest, in a contest, this doesn't go for prone so much, but in drop knee, you're forcing shit to get scores, and it's fucking horrendous. Drop knee, you run a fine line. You either can fucking do it or you can't. It's just, you want fucking reality, I'll give it to you. It's a fine line. There's a lot of guys who, they can drop knee, but it just fucking, it ain't fucking happening. Yeah. So it is a really fine line. So that's why, you know, when guys look at Roach and guys look at those guys who are doing things right and are just speed, connected, making it look functional, then fuck, it's amazing. But as soon as it's fucking not looking functional,
there's a rash vest on it.
And particularly when it comes to a contest, unless it's pumping waves,
fully,
it's going to look fucking horrendous. It just does. I cringe when I watch some of that shit.
Yeah, right. That's pretty damning.
Like, you reckon?
Well, no, it's just really cool to hear that coming from you, someone who's got the respect of the world on the knee, to see that you're... Because some people might have wondered why you didn't chase any of those titles or try to compete against those guys.
I didn't chase... I've never been competitive. I've thought about this about into myself, is I'm not a competitive person, as in contest competitive. I couldn't give a rat's ass. I really couldn't, and it shows because I never really competed. But I was always competitive in myself, and probably competitive against other guys like Mason and Dave Harb and those kind of guys. I probably never showed it, but you know, if I saw a good shot of Mason, I was like, fuck, I want to get I want to get that.
Yeah.
But that was really cool. That when I look back at it now, it was really cool to have that a sort of rivalry to push you and make you go and do shit or make you take off on that wave or fucking whatever to try to this rivalry, a friendly rivalry against these guys.
How did you on that then? Because this is kind of like it's an interesting topic of conversation, I think, in when you're being competitive in a free surfing sense. What is it that you're working on to better the other guy or to respond to his performance? So you see Mason do something awesome, it's a good shot, or you see him on a trip and you're there surfing in the water with him. Were you analysing your style and going like, what's my arm doing there? Was that the kind of focus that you had, or how did you approach that?
To approach my, I guess, competitiveness in the water, I guess a good example might have been off the wall in Hawaii, where me and Mason used to kind of surf together, and you'd have, back in the day it was different. You went to Hawaii and there was like 10 photogs on the beach, and that's what you were doing.
That's what you're there for.
Yeah, exactly. So, it was just competitive. You just wanted to get a better wave than Mason, or I just wanted to just get more tail hanging out, or whatever. Just get a better shot, And if I seen him do something good, it just pushed me, It wasn't like a negative, but it definitely pushed me, Yeah. Right.
Would you say Mason was your main kind of rival then in the Australian scene?
In the Australian scene, for sure.
Yeah.
Ballard was a bit... Ballard was like I looked up to Ballard. I never did trips. Actually, I did one trip with him, but not like that. Not like Mason. Mason was like a rival. Mason was complete opposite of me. He'd go down the beach and he'd be doing fucking handstands in front of the cameras, and he loved the attention. And and I was fucking totally opposite of that. Like, I just pretty funny. But yeah.
What's your best? What if you can pinpoint something? Because it's been a long. I realised because I saw that the Nomad Boys. They're celebrating 20 years of being a brand this year, and it's pretty wild because was that one of your first sponsors? And what it means is you've been doing this for over 20 years.
Yeah. So it's
you've been around a while.
Yeah. Got some long service leave wrapped
exactly.
up. No, so how it all how Nomad came into the scene was I was so I'll run it through real quick. So I got
take your time. It's a story.
Yeah. So so getting back to drop knee, Crawley was on the coast, Michael Crawley, and he was riding Quicksilver. And back in the day, Quicksilver was kind of like the, if you could ride, you're on that quick team.
Yeah.
They were doing custom boards. It was like
pretty sick for a moment there.
The amazing thing, right?
Yeah.
So anyway, I went down to Sydney to Dave Appleby to have an interview. He said, "Yep, we're going to sponsor you." I had Stroey ring me, who was bringing No Friends to Australia, and that was actually a huge big deal.
Yeah.
And I actually turned, and they were going to sponsor two guys, Sean Virtue and me, and that was like a huge thing. But I'd always kind of dreamt of getting on Quicksilver,
right?
So I turned Stroey down, and then about 2 weeks later, Quicksilver fucking dropped all their team. And I never saw the light of day, so I come crawling back to Stroey, and he actually he'd given it to Joel Taylor, and so my spot had gone, or Nelson Ross or Joel Taylor,
actually,
and my spot had gone, and anyway he put me on Fu Manchu. But anyway, so then Element P came into the scene, and Element P was an American brand. Back in the day, it was always like the big thing to get on a US label, I guess. And it was me and Virtue.
And so it was a cool brand at the time.
It was.
It really
they
nailed it.
They had the best guys, you know.
Yeah.
So to be selected in Australia, me and Virtue, I was like, okay, shit, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
And so that was really good, and that all kicked off. And then Billabong came onto the scene, and that really helped out. So then I was riding for Billabong and Element P. And then things started going pear-shaped a little bit with Element P. Just with just money and stuff was coming up, and I kind of got on my high horse and I thought I was more valuable. I kind of took a stand. I was like, you know what? If I feel I'm more valuable than that, Actually, I'm trying to remember. We went on a Riptide. It was my very first Riptide experiment trip.
Right.
And they said to me, Riptide turned around and said, "Yep, we got you on this trip. It's going to cost $6,000." And back in that day, I'm like, $6,000? Never seen that in my life. I'm like, how am I going to? But I'm like, I got to do this.
Of course you got it.
Yeah, so I got to do it. And then I looked around, and everyone else's sponsors were paying for it. Except for me.
Because it's worth it.
Yeah, except for me. And I was like, fuck, why can't I fucking...
Yeah.
You know, so I remember I fucking almost cried because I didn't think I was going to go on the trip. And I can't remember what the fuck happened. But I pretty much was going to rub off my fucking logos on the board for Elementor Peak. But let me just say, Nels and those guys who ran our biggest legends ever, it wasn't really with Nels, it was... I can't remember who it was with, but fucking... Anyway... Things were going pear-shaped. I was going to rub the logos off. Anyway, after that trip, when I got back, I was still under contract, so I rode for him. When I got back, I took a stand, and that was it. I wasn't riding for him, right? And then I get this phone call, and it's Shane from Nomad, and they were only doing clothes at the time.
Yeah.
And they said, "Oh, hey, look, we got your number off, I think, Mick Parkhill, and we'd like to offer you a contract." And I was. I just took a chance. I just thought, he sounded, you know what Shane's like. He sell ice to the Eskimos on the phone. So he just pretty much sold me into it. Yeah. And 20 years later, we're still kicking.
Yeah, it's really cool. It's really cool. I mean, I was there at the beginning as well.
Yeah, that's right. You were the original.
It was you and I.
Yeah.
Like I was only there a couple of months before you, and yeah, like I think it's just really cool to look back and go like, shit, these guys actually. They did pull it off. Like, I mean, they did. It was such a humble start.
Man, this is the one thing I always see is you always see on, Facebook or websites or whatever, they say, support bodyboard companies. And, man, you look at Shane and Mark, they got photos of them at the Mike Stewart coaching clinics. Yeah. Like, they were like us. Yeah. They were like bodyboarders who went, you know what, let's create a brand. They're no fat cats behind some... who were just trying to dip their money in. Yeah. They're the real deal. They're actually bodyboarders who created it, and I take my hat off to that. Yeah. And they probably don't know it, but even if I wasn't getting paid, I'd just ride their boards just because we've had 20 years together.
It's a long time.
And fucking what am I going to ride now? You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's getting to a point, isn't it? Like, yeah, well, I will just stick around.
Yeah. I mean, I'm gonna fucking surf anyway.
Exactly.
Probably could have, 15 years ago.
I mean, it may seem like a bit of a silly question now because to me, I feel like bodyboarding's in this very strange place. But what's your advice to a young person looking at like getting into this sport and showing? Like they're getting their first sponsors and all that kind of stuff. Like, how do you maintain a 20-year relationship with a sponsor? Oh,
communication for sure.
Okay.
Me and Shane and Mark, we're at the point where, like we've had some classic moments at contract time where they fucking, I thought I was worth this, and they slammed down the phone and they hung up on me, and I said, and a day later they ring back, and like it just heated personal shit gets said. Yeah. And it's pretty funny, but we're on that relationship, and if you can create that, over time you'll create that relationship with your sponsor, and then you can find the happy mediums, Mm-hmm. So I think that's what's been good with us is we've been able to find the happy mediums over the years, give and take a little here and there. They've been super lenient with me because I'm pretty, these days pretty lazy, just surfing D-bar. But and
it's kind of where it all started.
Yeah, that's right. So that's what I tell them. But no, but they're super mellow.
Is there a push for you to do more international? I mean, it's a bit of a silly question as well. Now we're in the middle of a pandemic where nobody's traveling.
No, there's a massive push. But it's weird as you get older. I remember when I was young and do these trips, and they're like, "Oh no, Roach can't come because he doesn't want to travel, or Akka doesn't like traveling." And I'm thinking, how the hell does someone not want to travel?
I know.
But I've kind of got to that place where it's like I'm just more than happy to just kick back at home and just surf around home and relax,
So do you like you're obviously still sponsored by Nomad and you're still representing them. What do you not? Is bodyboarding to you now just this kind of fun thing that you do in between your real job now?
Yes and no. Not really. Work. My job lifeguarding kind of, you know, you just go, that's the bread and butter on the table.
Yeah.
And bodyboarding's always like, I'll be bodyboarding every day. You know, like it's weird. Yeah, I don't know if I answered that right, but...
Is it a profession? It's not a profession anymore for you. It was for a while though, wasn't it?
No, not really. Not really.
I mean, was there a moment where it was a profession, you'd say?
Oh, well, you're getting paid.
Yeah, the Billabong moment probably would have been that,
exactly. Yeah, you're getting paid big dollars, and so that's, I guess, where you would say it's professional. But yeah, nowadays I'm just cruising. Yeah.
Was it hard? Was it a challenge in that transition from? Because like I'm assuming you were actually earning some pretty good money when you had the Billabong deal. You had these other sponsors, board models. You know, like there would have been some decent money coming in, and you're free surfing, so you're not really obliged to do all those competition, all that bullshit that other people went and spent heaps of money on with not many returns in terms of photos and magazines and whatnot. I mean, when it came to you pulling focus towards being a lifeguard, was it hard to not be the professional bodyboarder anymore? Was there any kind of crisis about, you know, oh damn, I'm not that guy anymore, now I've got to be this guy?
No, not really, because I've never thought I was that guy, you know what I mean?
Right.
I've one thing throughout my bodyboarding career is like, one thing that was pretty humbling back in the day, this is how I kind of look at things. My dad was a carpenter, and I remember wanting to go to Hawaii, and he said, well, if you want to go, you got to earn your keep, you got to do it yourself. So he put me on a job site stacking bricks, and that was one of the best things that could have ever happened to me, because I learnt the value of money. So then all of a sudden I'm getting sent around the world on these trips for free, and it's just fucking amazing. And that was one thing I always, to this day, I always look back on and thought to myself, I never bitched or moaned or took it for granted, is what I'm saying. Man, I've been on trips with people who just fucking bitch and moan, and you're sitting there going, you were getting paid for this.
Yeah.
Like, are you kidding me? I just never got that.
Yeah.
I never got that side of it. And so I never ever took it for granted. I was always super humbled to, like, I used to just think, shit, I'm getting paid to surf, to do something I was going to do anyway.
That's wild. Yeah.
Yeah, so, and obviously, you know, sports change and all that kind of jazz, and I really hope that guys can still achieve that, you know, but yeah, it's, but yeah, there was never because lifeguarding, you're at the beach, so, you know, maybe if I was locked in an office, then it would be this...
It might have been more dramatic.
Like, oh my God, get me out of here. But, you know, like, I'm surfing on my lunch break, I'm watching waves, you know, so, yeah.
No, but it's a good thing. I mean, today, you know, obviously you're still getting those sessions out there. When the world does come back to normal, do you think you'll get back on a few of those kind of photo, video trips with Nomad? Is that kind of the plan when life gets back to normal?
No, 100%. Yeah, I've kind of fine-tuned where I love to go. I like to go to places I know I'm going to score.
Is that why the Philippines seems to be your go-to? Is that
exactly? I just watch the maps.
I've never been. It looks fucking amazing.
God, yeah. It's you know, you just watch the maps, and then off you go, and it's just paradise. You know, you just dump your bags. The waves are there. You know, I'll have like 2 weeks, and I just surf my ass off. Surf, eat, sleep. That's all I do. Don't even talk to me. That's all I'm there for.
Yeah.
That's all I'm doing.
And you're having a ball.
And having a ball.
Yeah.
You know. Yeah. So I can't wait. I'd love to go back to South Oz.
Oh yeah. Okay.
Yeah, down there. I really love it down there.
It's funny. That's a tough trip to pull off at the moment too. Like, it's just wild, isn't it? Like, you can't even go there for a surf trip right now.
Yeah, I know. So it's it's all up in the air at this stage.
Okay, so South Oz, Philos. Is there anywhere that you've never been that you've kind of always looked at and you've gone like, fuck, I wouldn't mind getting there just once? A Point Break where you can really just slash it up, or any wave out there that you've looked at?
Maybe P-Pass or you know, places like that in the Pacific. There's that right-hander in Tahiti.
Yep.
I'd like to go back to Tahiti. Just more so because of Joints of Paradise, and you know, give me 4 to 6 foot chopu, nothing too serious.
Yeah.
And
that's getting pretty serious too.
Oh yeah, 6 foot is yeah, exactly. Yeah, I might tone that down a notch. But it's, you know, it is an absolute paradise.
It is.
Yeah, I just like easy things in life now.
Warm water, you know? Board shorts.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Would you rate, like, I'm realising that you've been to the Philippines quite a few times, haven't you?
Yeah.
Or is that maybe one of the most dominant places you've visited in
the recent years? I used to go to Mexico a lot.
Oh, yeah.
I'd love to go back to Mexico.
Yeah.
Just for a like a nostalgic thing.
Yeah,
I guess is go back to Mexico because I haven't been in a long time.
Yeah.
But yeah, Philippines is kind of like the easy trip, you know.
Yeah. You recommend it to people? Like, I mean, you probably won't because you probably don't want it to get too crowded, but it doesn't seem to get too wild there, does it? Like, it's pretty manageable, the crowd?
It depends. It's you kind of almost want to have it where it's like washing through a tad because that culls everyone, and it's not as perfect, but you kind of wait through the sets, and then the good ones will come. Because if it's like 4 foot perfection, it's crowded. It's a nightmare. But every time I've been there, I've kind of lucked into where a local contest will be up north or whatever.
Yeah.
And yeah, we've just been lucky. So I haven't really experienced the horror that I hear it can be.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of, I'm assuming, like Tahiti, which I haven't been back there in many, many years, but like there's a local crew there of riders. Like I heard Tahiti's basically like a local spot now. Chopu, it's locals who are dominating it at all sizes.
Yes.
And it wasn't like that when I was there 15 years ago now, shit. But like, has the Philippines had that transition as well, where the local riders have kind of all gotten better over time?
Oh yeah,
and they're
definitely
just like dominating the wave now?
Yep, 100%. There's a young surfer. I think his name's Miramai. I could have get that wrong, but he he's like a mix of Parko / Jamie O'Brien, and he's just eye opening to watch.
Right.
You know, yeah, they got some real talent there.
Yeah.
And they're the nicest people.
Yeah.
You know?
It's super cool though. But it's a double-edged sword, right? Because when the locals aren't into surfing that much, the foreigners come along and get these trips done and like in empty waves, and then when the local crew pay attention and start to work on it, it's like it seems to take about a decade.
Yes.
But then suddenly they're dominating it and it's their local spot. And the whole dynamics changed, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like I noticed back in the day, it was always you always see photos of traveling surfers giving these boards to the locals, going, "Hey, have a surf," and then fast forward 10 years and they're fucking threatening to bash it. You know what I mean? So yeah, I that's exactly
it's happening. Yeah,
well,
it's
look at Bali's a shit fight these days.
Yeah, local riders too, like dominating.
Well, they, from what I understand, the local blokes, they get that some foreigner can't really surf that well, can't get waves, so they paddle out, call everyone off, and then old mate goes.
Yeah.
And money talks, and they're locals there, so good on them. But that's why you choose.
It's a great irony of that moment though, because I remember doing the whole handing over the boards to the locals in Tahiti. Like actually back when we did the comps back there, we were all like, let's be a nice guys and give these boards. And then
let's
it's
get the photo.
I know, exactly. And then, you fast forward and some of those guys over there are absolutely ripping on
the Tahitians,
Tahitians are like really fucking next level, I reckon. Like, if they can get into a few of these other comps, I reckon they can do some serious damage, but they're definitely dominating Chopes now. So it's just a funny irony. I mean, reflecting back on the whole career and the life and stuff in bodyboarding so far, like what's the moment of all moments for you where you look back on it and you do get that nostalgia and you're like, wow, that was like sick in your career? Can you pick a moment where you really kind of went, this is the best thing ever?
It's going to sound really weird, and at the time it was pretty weird. We did a movement trip, and it was a round the world trip, and we went. It was me, Mitch, I think Chris White, me, Mitch, Hardy, Ben, and Kingy for movement, and they said to us, "Oh, we're going to do this round the world trip. First stops in Dubai."
Oh yeah.
And I'm thinking Dubai, like I don't even know where this joint is.
Yeah.
And then anyway, so we went to this. So yeah, it was for this wave pool, and I'd never been on a wave pool before. Anyway, so I didn't know what to expect. The fellas arrived earlier that day. I've arrived alone. I've come through. This guy's come out in a suit, no passport, nothing. He's just picked me up. We get in a Mercedes, I'm sitting in this Mercedes, and he's like, "Oh, is the air temperature right?" I'm like, "You fucking kidding?" So anyway, I'm driving through, and I had to go through Bahrain to get there.
Okay.
And I'd never been into the Middle East, and everyone's wearing,
dresses.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
I'm just going,
big
where?
long robes.
Yeah. I'm like, where am I?
Yeah.
Anyway, sure enough, I get there. Get to the hotel, and it's just like, they're like, "Oh, we'll take you to the room." And to take you to the room, you get on this gondola that goes through this fucking thing, and it's that place where it's got the tennis court on the top.
Yeah, exactly.
And I know. And anyway, we went and we spent 5 days there. Didn't spend a dime. It was just a crazy experience.
Yeah.
So like when I look back, I think to myself, like, that was fucking weird.
Yeah.
That was random. And or we went to Easter Island on a riptide experiment. Went to Easter Island. It's like, what the hell are we doing here?
Yeah.
But now, at the end of all this, I look back and go, fuck, I'll probably never go there again.
Yeah.
It was so random.
One of the funny stories I heard, I just want to pick up on the wave pool one, because because Mitch was on that, I don't know if he told me the story, but basically they just got the new flow rider there, and they wanted to get professionals in to demonstrate how good it could be to use. And the funny thing was, basically, none of you had ever really ridden a flow rider before, and I heard that they're like in the first moments, it was like the biggest kooking.
Oh,
everybody kooked it on the first ones, and all these people are there to watch. And
so they shut it down. All the management came around, like all these sheiks. No, I don't know if there were sheiks, but there was all these people.
Yeah.
And mate, I'm pretty sure from the get go, Hardy put his foot on the edge of the pool and just got flipped.
Exactly, yeah.
And I still, there's a couple of good stories I'll touch on there.
Please.
I swear to God, I almost seen Rawlins drown. So what happens is you're waiting your turn, and here's Mitch, and he's come unstuck. And what happens is the thing barrels, but there's a dry spot.
Yeah.
And usually you see him land in the dry spot and then get spat out. And I could see Mitch, and his upper torso was getting lipped, and his legs and that were on the dry spot, and he was stuck there. It was pinning him. It was the funniest thing. And then it ended up finally spitting him. He was gasping for air. I remember Jeff Hubb was on the trip.
Yeah.
I remember hearing someone squealing like a girl, and I was going, what the hell is that? And what happens is all the overflow of the water, it was like a legit issue, because the wall went down and it had this like little cavern in it.
Yeah, right.
And he was stuck in the cavern.
Just screaming, and he was screaming.
Yeah, he was screaming like he was going to die, but like a girl. And it was so funny. Yeah, but it's
Oh God.
Yeah.
Oh.
But yeah, and going into those riptide experiments, those were pretty cool. We did a couple of around the world trips and all that kind of jazz. And I guess one thing I'll say there is it's pretty funny, the behind the scenes stuff, like how intense stuff got.
Yeah, right.
Like with some people.
Please give me some stories. Oh, what do we got?
Ben Player and Jethro.
Oh, right.
Ben Player and Kingy were having.
But there was an old rivalry there, like that was always.
Yeah, but that was more But that was never. I'm not talking about rivalries. I'm just talking about travel friction, where just tempers flare.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah, pretty. But yeah, I guess it's pretty funny because the magazine will come out and these glossy pages, and it's like, wow, this is a great trip. and then you just think about the shit fight that was going on behind it, and you just think to yourself, I'd love to document that sort of shit.
Oh, I know. I'm just trying to catch up on it now with the podcast to try and get deeper behind the scenes. But that is actually something I'm looking into. Is actually I may as well announce this in this podcast. But the next step for me, because you kind of get done with the interview thing. It's good, but there's only so many times you can talk to someone about their story.
Yes.
But the thing I'm definitely going to be looking at probably this year into next is grabbing those riptides and talking to the people who were on that trip to get that behind the scenes and find out like what was really going on behind this story back in 1997 or 98 or whenever you did that, because those experiments were amazing trips, right? Those were pretty elaborate too. There was some sick stories there. I mean, you guys did some. I never got the privilege to go on one, but you guys got some sick trips there.
Yeah, those were actually those for me were like the pinnacle.
Yes.
Of my sport for me at the time was getting on the experiments.
Yeah.
and but yeah, they were amazing. You know, but they also had some amazing behind the scenes stories. You know,
that's great.
And which I'm guess the listeners, they all want to hear that kind of stuff. You know?
No, but we'll come back to it. I'm definitely coming back to those trips. So I reckon the lights faded on us. I reckon I can't even see the number, but I reckon we're at 40 minutes, which is usually a great podcast length.
Good stuff.
Thanks for sitting down. Thanks for taking the time.
No worries, mate.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and
it's good. I reckon we'll check back in on some experiment stories in the future.
Yep, too easy. Appreciate the time, the valuable time.
No worries. Is there any shout outs you want to give to anyone before we kind of wrap it up? Anyone you want to kind of pay any respect?
Oh well, obviously, this isn't even a fucking sponsor promo. Fucking Shane and Mark from Nomad Boards, because you know I've been with them like almost 20 years, and they've pretty much given me everything I've had through the ups and downs. So
epic, big
shout out there.
Yeah,
and,
great.
And I guess Roach for raising the bar, the untouchable bar that was never achieved.
Yep.
But it gave me some good times along the way.
Cool. I'm interviewing Shane next week, so I'll see what he has to say about the contract negotiations.
Yeah, that'll be interesting.
Thanks, mate.
The Boogie.